A very good morning. On the behalf of SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Ramapuram, Department of Business Administration, I extend a very warm welcome to our chief guest, Mr. V. Rajendran, Dr. C. Sundar, Dean SNH, Dr. Arulmudi, HOD MBA, Dr. V.S. Shija, HOD BBA, faculty members, and all of you present here to the webinar on how to be secured in the digital era. I am especially thankful to today's guest, Mr. V. Rajendran, Chairman of Digital Security Association of India. He is Certified Cyber Forensic Examiner of IDRBT, Hyderabad. He worked with Indian Overseas Bank for 3 decades in different capacities like branch manager, credit officer. After quitting from the bank, started practice as an advocate handling cybercrime and banking security. He published numerous articles on cyber law and cybercrime. He authored the book on IT security for banker, cybercrime and fraud management bank. A guest faculty in Indian Institute of Banking and Finance. He was past president of Cyber Society of India. Thank you, sir, for being with us. Cyber war is the battlefield of now. As the world is increasingly interconnected, everyone shares the responsibility of securing cyberspace. With this notion, we have organized the webinar. I am sure that at the end of the session, you will gain insight on cybersecurity and cyber safety. Now I request the speaker to take up the session.
Good morning, friends. It is really nice to get connected with you all on a nice, wonderful morning. I would certainly love to be there personally to meet you, but technology has made it closer and yet farther. Though we are farther physically, technology has made the job easier for all of us to get connected. In fact, we are living in the days of technology. Everything is connected technologically, everything is connected through a network. That's why people say it's a global network, it's a global village, everything is connected, everybody is connected. Physically, though, everybody is disconnected, technologically, everybody is connected. We are closer technologically. These days, you don't have to be the number one in the particular domain when you want to lead the industry. You have to be the number one in technology, irrespective of whichever industry you are in. For example, if you want to be the number one tourist operator, you don't have to own a single cab. The company who does not own a single auto is the number one auto operator. The company who does not own a single taxi is the number one taxi operator. And the company which does not prepare one single food item, one single parotha, one single chapati, one single idli, is the number one caterer. So, technology is their strength. Technology makes you reach the top, makes you the number one. But when we speak about technology, we also have to be very careful whether technology is really completely a boon or is there any flip side to it. Technology, though we are all happily connected, we have to be extremely careful in having our domains, in having our data, in having our security initiatives in place before we resort to a particular kind of technology. Whether it is a network to network, a mobile to PC, a PC to mobile, to a bank, through a service provider, through a telecom provider or a network provider or whatever, data keeps traveling. Data is always on the run. Data is always moving. So, in this perhaps 45 minutes to 1 hour of session, we are going to see how safe we are in a digitally connected world, how safe our network is, and how protected we are. Though it's a good old saying that there is nothing like 100% security, there is nothing like 100% safety, we still have to be very careful how we can attain reasonably the maximum amount of security with all these security initiatives in place. Let's go to the next slide. Now, what is security? Security just means safety. safety of information asset. There is a new classification in the assets portfolio. All of us know physical assets, a pen, a gold ring, a book, a textbook, a property, a movable property, immovable property. All these are just properties, assets. Now, in the digital world, data is an asset, information is an asset. So, security of an asset does certainly include security of the data, security of information as an asset. For example, bank contains the accounts of lakhs of customers. Service providers contain the data about lakhs of his customers. Any college, any academic institution, any office, institution, organization, they contain the personal data, salary particulars, health relevant data of many people. All these are very important, significant data. These are all assets which have to be guarded, which have to be protected. That is security. And when we speak about crimes, every security always is a breach of one of the three things. That is, every fraud, every crime has three dimensions to it: the basic intention, necessity to commit a fraud, the opportunity that the victim gives, and the rationalization. That is, the criminal or the accused rationalizes in himself, what is it wrong if I commit a fraud? Does he not commit a fraud? Does she not do it? Does not the entire world do it? Why should I not do it? So inwardly he rationalizes, he justifies. So these are the three dimensions. In these three dimensions, intention or necessity is very old, and the intention to commit a crime or a fraud is as old as human being, and rationalization is more psychological. So it is the opportunity part which we have to be careful. Don't give any opportunity. That is the first lesson in security. A nation is normally driven by four significant forces: the law or the rules framed by the government, the general standards which the society per se has set it upon for itself to follow, and the traditions or the cultural strength of the particular nation, or the cultural strength of the society, which is an age-old one, maybe centuries, maybe decades and centuries, right from the days of prehistoric days also, and the ethics and culture, which perhaps may sometimes change also depending upon the circumstances. So, in this particular environment, where does exactly law fit into the picture? Law is more dynamic, whereas tradition, society, ethics and culture are more static. What is unlawful yesterday may be lawful today. What is lawful today may be unlawful yesterday. Information security is stated to be resting on three pillars. Some textbooks also say it is actually 4 pillars. Fundamentally, it is confidentiality, integrity, availability of data in a network. Confidentiality means the data should be created, passed on, and reaching the particular person from the sender to the receiver in a confidential manner. Integrity means integrity is a very peculiar feature of the data. That is, it means the non-tamperable quality of the data. From the time the data is created, it should not be tampered with. It should not be susceptible to any tampering otherwise than through an authorized process of accessing it. So the data, while in transit until it reaches, should not be tamperable at all. That is the integrity. Then availability, it is the availability of the data to the right person at the right time under right authorization. The fourth pillar, it's a combination of essentially non-repudiation and of course authorization, authentication and other things. Non-repudiation plays a particular significance in this context because the data when sent should not be permitted to be denied. Non-repudiation means the non-deniability of the data. Nobody should be permitted to deny having sent the data when he has actually sent it, and the person who has received the data should not be permitted to deny having received it. That is, the person who sent it should be made to own the data having sent it, and the person who has received the data should be made to own the data having received it. That is a very essential part of the information security. Authorization and authentication are two very important, most popular words in the context of security. Authorization and authentication. Are they different or are they aligned to one another? Which is superior and which is inferior? There is no question of superiority. There is no question of something more important or less important. We can at best say that authentication comes first, authorization comes later. Authentication means confirming that the user is he or she what he or she claims to be. We enter our username or swipe our card, then we enter the password. So the password authorizes this that so and so is the user whose name he has entered. What he claims as user is authenticated. Authorization comes next, that is, having been entered into the system as a user, now he gets authorization to do a particular kind of transaction. Typically in the case of a banking, to do a transfer entry or to withdraw money, to do transfer or to just view the account in some such things. So these are all authentication mechanisms. Now we have 1-factor, 2-factor, 3-factor and all that. 1-factor means we just have a physical gadget, swipe the card and enter what you have, the physical gadget. 1-factor authentication. In addition to 1-factor physical possession of an instrument or a gadget, you are also told to enter a name or a password or a passphrase, then that is what you have and what you know, a 2-factor authentication. What happens typically in an ATM? We insert the ATM card, confirming that we have the ATM card with us, physical possession, then we enter the ATM PIN. So what I have, the card, what I know, the PIN. In the case of internet banking also, the system envisages a 2-factor authentication, that we enter the username and password, then the OTP lands in our mobile, so that the physical object, namely the mobile, is with us. Physical object of mobile is what I have, and the passphrase or the password is what I know. That is, so there is always a what I have and what I know. In addition to these two, there is a 3rd factor, namely biometric, which is the 3rd factor authentication, considered to be the ultimate in security. That is, the authentication with one feature of the physical parts of the body, namely the iris, or there is retina, or voice, thumb impression, or biometric features, or facial recognition, face, and all that. So an ATM enabled with biometric, these are all, some banks have already tried it. So ultimately this is what is called a 3-factor authentication. Here I am trying to explain how exactly a cybercrime happens, or what constitutes, what results in a cybercrime. Inadequacy of regulations, a user who is ignorant, who is not aware of the seriousness, lack of awareness. Sometimes law itself is a bit ambiguous. There are vulnerabilities in the system itself, some vulnerabilities in the transmission, vulnerabilities like absence of an antivirus in the system, poor risk management. Then we feel that it's a very simple thing. Without knowing the seriousness, we venture into the particular networking or any other electronic gadget, a hardware or software. So all these results in cybercrime. In fact, this is a very interesting slide. Every word in this slide assumes a lot of importance. You try to go through the slide word by word and try to understand. You will be able to exactly know the different ramifications or the implications of the entire gamut of cybercrimes. We will now see how law and technology are closely aligned with each other. There are so many things in normal life that we feel are just technologies, or a skill, or a laborers, efficiency. For example, if somebody loses the vehicle key, a simple mechanic, an expert mechanic will be able to open the vehicle, open the door, open the window by using his skill or proficiency without the proper key also. That is an expertise. When that expertise is used with the permission of the owner, that's a skill, that's a proficiency. But if the same expertise is used without the knowledge or in a clandestine manner or in an unlawful manner, then that becomes a crime. Similarly, in the case of technology also, if I can get into your system, if I can guess your password, or by a brute force attempt, by repeated attempts, if I can crack your system and enter your email without your knowledge, then that's an illegal activity. But when you have lost your password, or we do not know how to enter your system, you want to take my assistance to do it, with your knowledge I am doing it, then that becomes a kind of hacking, what is in today's parlance called ethical hacking. Though the word ethical hacking itself is sounding a bit peculiar, if hacking is a crime, then there cannot be anything called ethical hacking. That is, no crime can be legalized by prefixing the word ethical to it. However, that word has actually come to stay. So, this slide actually gives you a series of activities from a hacking, steganography, cyber squatting, fast flux, Stuxnet, and all those activities which are pure technologies, including scavenging, which are pure technologies which may be used for legal purposes, and when used for illegal purposes, that becomes unlawful. For example, quite interestingly, when the famous Mark Zuckerberg, founder of Facebook, was blessed with a female child, he openly said after about a week of the birth of the daughter, or perhaps after 1 or 2 days, I do not recollect, he said that the girl's name is going to be Max Chan, something like that. A college student from Kerala got a web domain name registered in the name of maxchanzuckerberg.org. The founder of Facebook himself realized that there should be a domain name in the name of the just born child, perhaps after about 2-3 weeks, perhaps after about a month of the birth of the child. And by the time he realized that the domain name was already gone, it was with an engineering student in Kerala. Then he had to send somebody to India, talk to that boy, and get the domain. Perhaps the boy would have spent hardly about a few hundred rupees for the domain name, which ultimately Mark had to pay around $700 or about $1,000, something like that, and get the domain name. So in a matter of few weeks, the boy made thousands of rupees as profits. From a legal perspective, perhaps you would say that it's not illegal because anybody can have a domain name registered in anybody's name, so long as it does not result in any blackmailing or unlawful activity of taking the business of the other. It is not unlawful per se. So all these are technologies. Similarly, scavenging, that is taking out the data from a lost mobile, from a mobile which you would have officially acquired on a buyback. Whenever we buy a new mobile, the shopkeeper would say the old mobile can be taken for buyback, say for about 300-400 rupees or about 500 rupees. And for a paltry amount of 500 rupees, we give the old mobile also. Remember, from a mobile, there is nothing like a deletion. Anything in the mobile can always be recovered, because the mobile data is not like the data which we record or save in our hard disk. Hard disk typically in a computer or in a laptop. In a mobile, the storage system itself is entirely different, and recovery depends upon so many factors, unlike the recovery of data in a hard disk, in a laptop, or in a computer. In a mobile, every data is always recoverable. That too, in these days, any roadside company in Taiwan, Taipei, South Korea, or China coming out with the latest brands of mobile with no rugged, with no popular operating systems in it. We do not know what is the system of storage, and we will not even know how the recovery system works. So, scavenging itself is an art when we take out the data from a deleted part of a mobile. But if that scavenged or taken out the data so taken out is used for an illegal purpose, something like a blackmailing purpose, that becomes an offense. So every word in this slide can be used from a technology perspective for a legal as well as an illegal purpose. That is how law and technology are closely aligned. Next is about drones. This is something which is gaining popularity these days. Every one of us, most of the days, keeps reading about the use of drones. Drones are used, deployed for surveillance, uh, flying at a very high altitude of maybe 500 600 feet, or about even about 200 300 meters above, and to speed ranging from 40 to 50 kilometers per hour also. And during that speed, drones can capture the videos. Suppose you are sitting in the 5th or 7th floor of a high rise building in the balcony, a drone whizzes past you and captures your photo and then transmits it to somebody else. Does it not amount to invasion of your privacy? So there are security concerns about the deployment of drones also. Drones also are real security concerns. When used effectively by the police, they are very good, very useful. When illegally used and are inefficiently used or used for criminal purposes, there can be very huge security risks also. We have already seen that data always keeps moving from one gadget to another, across a network, from one place to another, sometimes globally from one part of the world to the other part as well. Especially banking today is not the banking we had maybe around 30 40 years earlier. Banking today is less of personal banking and more of electronic banking. For doing banking, nobody goes to the bank these days, and rarely we have a personal interaction with the manager or the counter official at the bank. Most of the transactions are done through electronic medium. Today's banking, the human interface is extremely less, and electronic interface is more, like like an ATM or the internet banking and other things. Data keeps moving across the cloud or through a network from different parts of the globe, from the user's level, from his mobile or his desktop or his PC to the bank server. Sometimes it goes through 2 3 different servers as well. To the bank server, from there to the ATM common switch like a Visa switch or Mastercard switch or a RuPay switch or internet banking or but a point of sales terminal or any app server, sometimes through the BCP DR server and all that. So data always keeps moving, and there are a lot of security concerns, and banks per se take abundant precautions to ensure that the data is safe while in transit. Earlier, banking actually meant going to the bank, meeting the manager or the counter clerk, taking a token or giving a check, taking cash or remitting cash and getting the receipt or the counter file, something like that. Now, those days of banking are actually, if not gone, vanishing, I would say, gradually getting decreased. Now, as opposed to the physical delivery channels, that is, going to the bank personally, physically, and doing a banking transaction, we speak more and more about electronic delivery channels. Some banks also prefer the word alternate delivery channels. Electronic delivery channels or alternate delivery channels actually mean doing a banking transaction without actually going to the bank physically and in an electronic manner. That is, by an ATM or internet banking or a point of sales terminal, like you go to a textile shop or go to a hotel or go to any other shop and make a purchase by swiping your card, debit card or credit card, which actually going to a bank account only. That is doing a banking transaction through the point of sales terminal at the shops. And the fourth, of course, all of us know is mobile banking. These are the four electronic delivery channels and there are abundant security concerns in all these. While internet banking is basically your PC, your laptop, and your concern to have a proper antivirus, ATM is mostly the concern of the particular branch, or an on-site ATM or an off-site ATM or whatever, or when you are doing an bank transaction, that is the customer of one bank drawing money from the ATM of another bank, which is also there. In all those cases, maintenance of ATMs and taking care of the security is the concern of the particular bank, one bank or the two bank, the paying bank or the bank with which we maintain the account. In the case of a mobile, of course, it's a little more complicated. Your mobile, the device upkeep, all the apps which you have put, the vulnerabilities of the app, the vulnerabilities in your mobile, and the vulnerabilities in the network, and through which mode it takes, whether it goes to the app server, from there which route it takes to go to the bank and raise a debit in the database there. So all these four channels have got their own security implications, and it's always a combination of how secure your gadget is, how careful you are, how aware you are as a customer, and how the bank is aware of the security implications, and how the network provider or the service provider or the telecom providers are about the security threats and the vulnerabilities of the system. In the case of electronic banking, there are so many precautionary steps that everybody can take. All these are very simple, in fact. I don't want to go step by step. Most of you must be knowing it. Always look for a lock symbol. Look for the HTTPS and not just HTTP. All of you must be knowing it by now. And look for a lock symbol there. Sometimes it will be a tick symbol also, a letter V, the second part of the letter V being extended, looking like a tick symbol also. When you click that, it will show a certificate from a company called VeriSign, VERISIGN. VeriSign is a company of international repute which certifies that the website is genuine. Not about the bank, but about the website. It says this website is the genuine, authenticated website of the bank, which it claims to be, and any data you enter through this screen is authenticated. You don't have to worry about it. Something like a certification of the website. So look for the green address bar also. HTTPS and the first part of the URL, the address bar top turns green normally, which in technological parlance is called an EVSSL, Extended Validation Secure Socket Layer. Let's not go deeper into technology there. It only says that the first part of the thing going green, we are taking care about the security aspects of the data, whatever you are going to enter in this screen. Because everybody these days is afraid of phishing kind of scams. Somebody sends you a link, you click that link and enter the data, then suddenly the link or the website vanishes. Then it turns out that the link or the page itself is not the genuine page of the bank. It's a hoax, it's a fake, it's a duplicate, it's a spoofed page. So in these cases we should be pretty much sure that whichever screen we are entering the data is the authenticated and the official screen of the bank. To guard against these kind of risks and to be doubly certain that we are going in a safe or secure path, you have to think about all these things. HTTPS, green address bar, site certification details, and all that. Of course, the other things you must be knowing it. It's a CVV or the CVC, which is a 3-digit number printed at the back of the card normally, and this number is a permanent one. There are some minor transactions of minor value for which the 3-digit number itself is taken as the authentication mechanism. Especially in some countries, there is no system of OTP there. Your card number, your name, and the 3-digit number itself is taken as the security initiative. So when you give a Xerox of back-to-back of the card, the 3-digit number also goes there. That it's itself a major security hazard. Never give the back-to-back Xerox of the card to anybody, and never keep the 3-digit number also open. In fact, I would even suggest you can smudge the 3-digit number, because it's a permanent number. You can smudge it, erase it with a blade or any such thing, and just remember the number, because that number is not something like an ATM pin. We can get it, something like a forgot password, and you can write to the bank and get it. When once lost, it is permanently lost. So write the number somewhere, or remember the number very carefully, and remove it physically from the card. That is a very good security step which everyone can take. This screen actually tells you about the EVSSL green bar, which is a major security initiative taken by almost all the banks these days. So whenever you do any electronic banking, always look for the address bar at the top, and immediately when you log in, you ensure that the address bar turns into green. The first half of the address bar turns into green. Okay. As we have seen earlier, a very popular electronic delivery channel these days is mobile banking. Unlike the technology used, operating system used in a hard disk drive, like a laptop or a server or a PC, in the case of a mobile, it's a bit complicated. I would rather say it's a bit tricky. It's more risky. That's why banks take a lot of initiatives to ensure that the mobile banking is safe. But having said all that, one cannot be, even right now, absolutely certain that the mobile banking is very safest. That is why more and more technology users are a bit wary about mobile banking. And fortunately in India, mobile banking has not developed, has not become very popular like electronic banking. In fact, mobile, which was originally invented to be used as a device for communicating voice, for speaking, is nowadays being used for anything other than speaking. For banking, for a device, for WhatsApp communication, for sending photos, for receiving photos, for spoiling somebody, for motivating somebody, for demotivating somebody, for all sorts of criminal, illegal, everything mobile is being used. And it is more misuse, abuse, disuse, and improper use of the mobile. Okay, let's not go deeper into all those things. From a mobile perspective, I would rather say do not store your banking password, banking credentials, or for that matter any other confidential information in the mobile. Mobile is always a bit risky. India is normally a talking society, we normally used to say. Unlike other countries, especially the Western developed literate nations, when somebody travels in a daytime flight for about 5-6 hours, they hardly we speak 1 or 2 sentences with the co-passengers, except a shrug of a shoulder or about excuse me or a thank you, nothing more than that. But in India, when you travel even in a daytime train for about 6 to 7 hours, daytime train or a long distance buses or anything like that, at least the old people, middle-aged and the older generation, I would say, not the younger generation of these days, we tend to talk so much. So much of personal information is always very liberally, very conveniently shared with the co-passengers, not being aware of what are the confidential data, what are the private personal data that we are sharing with the persons who are traveling with us, who are just going to be hardly friends for about few hours. After that, both the passengers are going to forget the other one very comfortably, but we speak, because we have a tendency to share our feelings. Sharing the food is something very, very forbidden, very rare abroad. Nobody shares the food, nobody shares tea or drinks with any stranger in a public place or in a railway platform or in a station or anything like that. Whereas in India, the moment you open your food in a train, you always share it with the co-passenger, taking pride that this is a homemade food, better tasted. My wife has done it, my sister has done it, something like that. We take pride in sharing the food. We take pride in sharing our happiness. We take pleasure in sharing the sorrows of others. We always care about our neighbors. Of course, these days with the a lot of urbanization and metro culture, this kind of sharing of the concerns of the neighbors also is on the decline. I've been telling you about a few years back, it was so much in India. In this kind of environment, this is the breeding ground for social networking sites. That's why Facebook and WhatsApp are all very popular in India, unlike in many other places. What we are afraid to talk to a person in person, personally, physically, we share it with absolute disdain, we share it in a social networking sites. Sometimes a person would have would not have liked to tell the boss or his colleagues where exactly he went. He would be coming late for the office or college in the afternoon. By the time he reaches there, one of his friends, he would have taken a photo of the person that he was there in the function, a group photo in which he was there, and by the time the person reaches the office, he cannot get away by telling a falsehood that he had been to a hospital, his uncle was hospitalized, any such thing, because the matter is already known. Such is the strength of Facebook and WhatsApp kind of information. We share a lot of information. Sometimes it puts us in embarrassment, and most often it puts our neighbors, our friends, our contacts, the persons who are with us also in the same embarrassment without knowing the seriousness. And WhatsApp admin, their role is pretty peculiar. Police have always said that WhatsApp admins are responsible for the data, for the message, and if any criminal activity is being done in a WhatsApp group, the admin is normally held accountable by the police, though legally there are differing opinion about it, that the WhatsApp admin does not take care of the content and he cannot be held liable for the content of the WhatsApp message. Let's not go into the legalities of whether he is accountable, what the Indian Contract Act says, or what the Information Technology Act says, or what the Indian Penal Code, like abetment to crime, that though you are not responsible, you could have always shared the information, and when the police wants it as an admin, it is your duty to point out, to nab the culprit, to nab the user, and bring it before the police. All those things are legal and a complicated matter of judicial interpretation. Let's not go into all those things. Security and privacy. Now, security, privacy, ease of use, they are all closely related to one another. The more secure I feel I am in a place, the more private I am. The more private I am in a place, possibly it is no ease of use. If your bank account is absolutely secure, then you will lose that ease of use. If the bank account is absolutely ensuring ease of use, it is very convenient for you to use, then same time it will be convenient for the use by criminals also. So if it is ease of use, only when it is compromised, it can ensure in some amount of security, which is a component of privacy. So all these three things, they always go together. If a bank is making its mobile banking very difficult, like asking for one OTP, one one-time password, one session-generated PIN, one e-banking kind of an environment, or one grid kind of a card in which, and all those things are there, then it means your account is very safe, but it will be at the cost of use of use. Some people may not like, oh, what kind of a bank it is. It is asking so many questions. After all, I am going to draw my money. When I draw my money, why should the bank ask me so many questions? It's not the question of bank asking you questions. It's a question of security. It's a question of safety of your funds and your privacy. So, it is more a regulatory driven activity also. Being a regulator, Reserve Bank, or being a regulator of telecom, TRAI, or any other regulator, if we insist that the data has to be handled in such a manner only, and the user has to be given that privacy, security, then those things have to be complied with. Whatever be the cost of the ease of use, however difficult the particular app is making you use it. There are so many apps now which says it's a very simple app, Very simple thing. You can easily download it, but you will not know what kind of an app it is. After downloading, you will go to the 8th or 9th scrolled page and simply you put I agree without even caring about what all the points which went in a smaller print and all these scrolled 7 or 8 pages there. It would have it would have mentioned somewhere that I'll be accessing your email, I'll be accessing your contact, I'll be switching on the camera, I'll be taking the pictures, I have a permission, I have right to send these pictures, like all that, and everything you would have completely to the end you would have said yes, 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 completely you would have said I agree. So it's not a question of ease of use, it's a question of security you have to be very careful about. In the context of privacy, in the context of security, we have already seen that these two words always go together, security and privacy. India never had any act on privacy of data. Though Information Technology Act 2000 was there, its Information Technology Amendment Act 2008 was there, which brought in some significant factors like sensitive personal information and reasonable security practices and body corporate and the powers of computer emergency response team, the powers to block a website, to monitor a website, all these things are defined there. But that act per se does not speak much about cybercrime. It does not even define a cybercrime. In fact, the word cybercrime does not appear in our Information Technology Act at all. That act was originally, basically, primarily passed to give legal recognition to an electronic record to facilitate e-commerce so that records, contracts can be transmitted, accepted, and relied upon based on an electronic mode of communication. It was an act to facilitate e-commerce and recognizing electronic records. So there was nothing on there was not much on cybercrime, and there was nothing on privacy. Now, a Personal Data Protection Act, which is something like a GDPR, which is in USA, and the CASA in USA, and the California Consumers Act, which came in one particular state of USA, and similar acts are there in Singapore and many other countries as well. India also thought of having a Personal Data Protection Act, which is colloquially commonly called as the Privacy Act. This is a result of what a popular 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court said, that privacy also is a fundamental right. Every citizen will have privacy as a feature of his fundamental right. Privacy is a component included in the fundamental right. Having said that, the larger question now opens is what exactly is privacy? But nobody has defined it. Even the Act, Personal Data Protection Act, the draft of which was passed in the previous Lok Sabha itself, that Lok Sabha went, and then fortunately the next Lok Sabha under the same Modi government, of course with the same law minister also came. So they were pretty serious in making that bill and act. They placed it again in the parliament a few months back. But once again, due to various reasons, due to some people not understanding the seriousness of the act, or and of course so many other considerations, the bill could not be passed as an act. It is not exactly sure, it is being discussed. Everybody hopes, believes that the act will be in place possibly in the next few weeks or few months, I would say. When that act comes, the privacy will have a clear-cut, not definition, I would say a description. What is private, what is privacy for an individual today may not be privacy for the same individual after 10 years. What is privacy for one may not be privacy for the other. What is privacy in this city may not be privacy in another city. So privacy is a relative factor, is a relative term depending upon the circumstance, depending upon the person, the time, the place, and many other factors. So with all these things, the act brings along with it the wider ramifications of the significance of privacy. The objectives of the data privacy regulations are essentially threefold: to ensure, to enable business industry to conduct their businesses without hampering, without impacting the privacy of the data owners or whose data the particular industry or the business is handling. Then, to ensure what exactly is the privacy and the secrecy which every data owner has got a right to define. Possibly he will define what is privacy or what is his particular concept of privacy, and the data fiduciary or the other players, the data owner, the person who handles it, and the company who transmits it, and the company who processes it. All these things are defined in the act. They also do have a set of regulations to abide by, and ultimately it is national security, the controls and the regulations. Just like Reserve Bank of India serving as the regulator for the banking industry, and the TRAI serving as the regulator for the telecom industry, and the IRDA for the regulatory insurance authority. Like every industry has got its own regulator, data also will be having a regulator, almost like RBI will be having branches throughout India with a technological, legal, and a technical and separate wings handling particular domains related to the data component, and ensuring the rules are formed and the rules are complied with. This regulatory body, data privacy regulatory body, also is going to be vested with the powers of a penalty, ensuring that the regulations are followed, complied with, and if not, a penalty to be levied upon the fiduciary or the processor who handles the data. What kind of data has to be handled, what kind of data can be processed abroad, what kind of data has to be processed only in India, which cannot be sent abroad, and of course including a new concept like if the data has been used, whether the data should be erased or removed or no longer used. For example, something is available in Google today, you would say that my data should not be fetched by Google. After about 5-6 years, nobody should be able to take out the data, and I want the data to be removed. We have a right to define that when once this act comes into place. But though technologically all these things sound a bit peculiar, I would even rather say found a bit difficult to be complied with. Let us wait. Let us wait it with better breath. How all these things are going to be complied with, how the regulatory authority is going to define the rules and regulations for compliance of all these provisions. Quite interestingly, even before the act has come, before the bill has been passed as an act, there have been a lot of complaints, a lot of criticisms. Some part of the industry, many industry bodies have a reputation, very seriously concerned citizens. They also say that some part of the act is too strict. They say that it is too strict to be complied with. Nobody can be doing it. We cannot let our data to be handled only in India. There must be some liberalization, some liberalized view that there are circumstances in which our data has to be processed abroad, and nobody can be so sure that data can never be sent abroad for processing, and the data fiduciary, data owners, data controller, all those rules and regulations are very strict to be complied with. How one section of the citizens, one section of the users also say that it is very difficult to be complied with, and even the regulator is not going to be very strict, and there are so many technicalities involved, and these technicalities are very difficult to understand. Some people say that it is too late and too less. People say that the regulations are too less and they come too late, when most of the other countries have already have in place data privacy, data security kind of regulations. India is just trying to put one for the past 3 years. The bill has not even become an act, and even before that, there have been a lot of criticism, a lot of debates, some people objecting to it. The whole thing, it's looking like something, some 5 blind people looking at an elephant and telling that your trunk looks like a tree, this looks like a tail, looks like a bag, this looks like a bark of something like that, without knowing the exact ramifications, the meaning of one particular part of the elephant, and coming into a conclusion. Everybody has his own criticism, looking at it from his own perspective. So we have to wait what exactly the law has in place, and when the law comes and when the act is passed, when the regulations are passed, then only we will be pretty thorough with the ramifications and the implications, how the society, how the judiciary, how the advocates, how the software companies are going to react. As I have already said, there is nothing like 100% security in a network. When once you are connected, it means there is always some risk, some threat vector, some threat looking at you, and some vulnerability which you may or may not know, and there is nothing like 100% security. That's why often we read news reports. Some may be true, some may be false also, and some may be hyped also, but basically there must be an element of truth in all those reports. We hear reports that the government website, the secure website of UA, the secure website of this government, that government, the Britain government, UK and Indian government, or possibly the Prime Minister's Secretariat, the President of this country, that website. So many that has been hacked, some data has been lost and all that. So we have to be prepared for a circumstance that the data in a network is always vulnerable, and there is nothing like 100% security in a network. Possibly, if not the hackers, it may be the investigators or the or maybe even the government department trying to spy for the sake of national security, even as part of national security, as part of some regulatory compliance with a larger national interest in mind. Also, there could be some spying, which also is absolutely justifiable and understandable. But anyway, the bottom line is that data in a network can never be considered to be 100% safe and 100% secure. Now, thinking of a long-term vision for India to guard against cyber crimes or in the path towards cyber security, let us consider this. We always take pride in saying that the CEO of Google, the CEO of Microsoft, the Vice President of HP, so many big people in the US with 100% technology companies and software companies are from India. We even say that he's from Andhra, he's from Gujarat, he's from Tamil Nadu. We take pride. So we say that India is the IT superpower, India is a technology superpower, Indians are software giants. But having said that, what is the operating system we use? That's from US. What is the search engine we use? That is from the US. And where do the firewalls and most of the antivirus kind of software comes? But for some locally developed and Chennai-based firms like K7 Computing and all that, most of these are not from India. And where do the chips come from? Where do the cables come from? Japan. Where do the chips come from? China, Taipei, Taiwan, Korea and all that. So with no hardware from India, no software from India, nothing from India, we take pride in telling that Indians are top in IT. But no hardware is from India, no software is from India, search engine is not from India, but the data is Indians. So that is the kind of environment we have today. In our fight against cyber security, possibly in the long vision, as a long-term measure, college students, college boys and girls like you should aspire to build our own operating system. Though we do have our own operating system called the Bharat Operating System, developed by CDAC, Center for the Development of Advanced Computing, which was praised by none other than the great Abdul Kalam about 10 years back itself, which was considered to be the equal or the rival of Microsoft Windows. But somehow, due to various reasons, this operating system, India's indigenous operating system, was not marketed, I would say, was not marketed well. So it never reached the public. Though still some government departments are still reported to be using it. So we should have our own operating system, we should have our own hard disk, our own search engine, our own Facebook, our own Zoom, our own Meet, our own Google and all that. Unless we proceed in such a path, until we depend upon a router, a modem, the cables, the kind of network from China, from other countries, European or even a small East Asian countries, our cybersecurity scenario cannot be bright. We have to depend upon the technology from other countries with our data fully exposed. Other thing is lack of coordination. India has multi-nodal agency for preventing cybercrime. We have a RA, we have a PMRO, we have a IB, we have a state police, the border state police, the CBI, the enforcement directorate, the prevention of money laundering and other kind of many enactments, and everybody deals about cyber crimes. And we do have an overall National Cybercrime Coordination Center, which was set about 3-4 years back, but that has not been fully operational till date. So many funds have been allocated that must be in place so that as a one-point referral of all these cybercrime related activities. Suppose a criminal is there having committed a cybercrime in one part of the India, and one police agency is on the lookout for him, say in Chennai. The same criminal is indulging some other activity, say in Bihar, say in West Bengal, say in Maharashtra. Maharashtra police, Bihar police, and some border security force, everybody will be looking for him with separate files in his name. With no proper coordination, there will be no coordinated effort to nab him. If some oversight body, a superimposing body, a high level apex body is there which can coordinate the efforts of all these investigation agencies and say that you have a file against him, he also has a file against him, better you share your data with him, so that we will be able to nab the culprit at the shortest span of time. So this is the need of the hour, but your talk is already there. Hopefully it will be in place shortly in the next few months, I would say. Rather, I'm not pretty optimistic about it. Let us hope it will be in place. If you want to completely guard against cybercrime, perhaps, interestingly, I would say that you have to observe something like an upvasa of this kind. For 1 day, for 2 days, take a vow, take a pledge that I will not touch my mobile, I will not touch my ATM, I will not touch Facebook. Possibly I should have added WhatsApp also here. Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever. I'll never go to internet. I won't even touch my PC or laptop. Suppose you take a vow that I'll not touch any of these gadgets for the next 2 days or 3 days or 1 week. If we can observe that such a kind of an upvas, we can be free of cybercrime. I am not alarming you that the use of all these electronic gadgets, use of a network will certainly land you in cybercrime. I am just telling you to be prepared for an environment in which you may have to be a victim of a cybercrime even with no fault on your part. The moment you are in a network, be prepared, be rest assured that nothing will happen, but always be prepared for the worst also. Put every security initiative in place. But now, having come to this stage in technology and electronics, there is no question of going back. Nobody can go back to the banking of 30-40 years back, or about a communication of 40-50 years back. Nobody sends New Year greeting cards these days. Nobody sends any Diwali greetings these days, or any other festival greetings. Nobody goes to any person invites others personally. So with such a kind of electronic technology penetration, there is no question of our going back now. Whatever we have traveled in the past 20-30 years, absolutely we have to proceed further on the same lines only. There is no question of going back. So this kind of upvas, though theoretically we can talk about it, nobody can do it, because a child of 2.5 years, 3 years speaks about technology much more than a person in 50s and 60s. And especially during the period of lockdown, I am simply amazed to see that many schools, even for 5th standard, 6th standard, and if not primary, at least secondary and junior secondary level, they said that the school homework and discussions are going to be done through Zoom and Skype kind of an electronic mode, and the students are indirectly tutored to use these electronic things, and if the parents are not aware, they feel bad about it. So there is no question of literacy. The question of computer literacy is what matters now. Perhaps you may be illiterate, you may be a PhD, you may be a doctor, you may be an MPhil or an MA in literature, you will be quoting Shakespeare from, no, top to bottom. But if you don't know the use of a simple mobile device or a simple PC or how to create a Word document, then the world will laugh at you. So there is no question of going back. Technology penetration has come to stay. With this, let me conclude. I wish you all a very, very safe browsing. Wish you all a society free of cybercrime. Be safe, be secure, and in case of any further clarification, feel free to contact me. Thank you. Thanks for the wonderful opportunity. Particularly, I thank Dr. Sonia for having put in a lot of efforts. The amount of efforts which she has put in, I just can't believe that somebody can spend hours and hours on end to make this event successful. Thank you. Thanks everybody.